the new PMP 450 capabilities. So let me just pull up the PowerPoint for us real quick and we will get started here. Okay, well, we are ready to go. So Dave, without further ado, go right ahead.
All right, so good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Potentially good evening for those of you who may be joining internationally. So we're going to go through Cambium Network's new PMP 450 capabilities. My name is Dave Geithner. I manage a system architecture team here at Cambium Networks. I'm based in Rolling Meadows, right outside of Chicago, Illinois, in the U.S. Matt Mangriadis, who's our product manager, would typically be going through this presentation. He is on jury duty, so tag I'm it. And this is a product, as I mentioned, system architecture team, our group of about 4 or 5 folks, kind of touch across all the product portfolios, kind of an interesting put it together erector set type of group. And so we'll be able to drill into the 450 in Matt's absence without too much issue here. Obviously, please ask questions as you need to, or as things may or may not be necessarily clicking as we go through this, and we'll try to pause and answer as we can. So next slide, if you would. All right. So what this is basically showing, so probably one of the biggest strengths of our company is as our portfolio shows here is the breadth of our portfolio, quite honestly. It's the end-to-end capabilities with probably about a year or year and a half or so ago, the entry of our edge solution, edge access solutions, in-home Wi-Fi, business, outdoor Wi-Fi type solutions. We're now doing solutions, providing solutions, as it kind of shows on the slide here, from 245 kilometers, very long haul type solutions, wireless solutions, to 1 meter with indoor and outdoor Wi-Fi edge access solutions. Where PMP 450 fits in the picture, as you can kind of see, is what we typically call the distribution access layer, where you're connecting up a long distance backhaul type of solution, whether it's wireless or wired, to a wireless distribution, out to businesses, out to homes, out to cameras around the community, or out to Wi-Fi access points in certain scenarios. All of this solution, all of these solutions, long distance, distribution access, edge access, all wraps up under one manager, which we have introduced here in the last several months, called CN Maestro. And the CN Maestro is a complete lifecycle management solution where it not only provides the typical management attributes, alarms, events, performance, as you would expect out of a network manager, but also planning, network inventory management, certain Wi-Fi controller functionality, all of that wrapped into the CN Maestro type application. All right, so probably enough said on this first slide. So we'll drill down here a little bit more with where we're going to be speaking today. When you look at that Cambium portfolio more in a list or a column format, we'll be talking about the 450 in green. Unparalleled scalability, and scalability meaning you can really expand a single base station number of subscriber modules of 238, if I recall correctly, with being able to do very efficient reuse of spectrum with 20 megahertz channels, and we'll talk a little bit more detail on this. But basically, a single base station or access point, being able to provide with today's solution 125 megabits per within a single sector, and supporting multiple frequencies in that single product solution, 900 megahertz, 2435, 365, and 5 gig, as you see in the listing here. So extreme capacity, and we're not stopping anywhere close to the number that's shown here right now, and we'll talk a little bit about where we're going with the capacity of a single access point or base station solution in some upcoming slides. But extreme capacity, unparalleled scalability with that GPS sync type capability. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit further in the slide deck. Low cost, low complexity type of solution, consistent throughput, low latency, rapid deployment, very easy to deploy type of solution. And probably one of the biggest things that operates in near line of sight, non-line of sight, and line of sight type of performance attributes. Easily able to be modeled within our link planner tool that we offer on our website that you can pull down by just simply going to our support site and searching up on link planner, and that solution, that tool allows you to plan 450 networks, capacity, path profiles, and throughputs, performance information very quickly and easily. All right, so next slide, please. We're on what we call our 4th generation of the PMP product family from Cambium. With the PMP 450, it started with the PMP 100 and has kind of progressed through various different iterations over the last several years. Where are we at with system capacity? Over 200 megabits per access point, over a 1.5 gig of tower capacity, tower bandwidth possible with this type of solution. And you have multiple base stations, multiple access points on the single tower or single mounting asset, and can support symmetrical or asymmetrical speeds, meaning I can favor the uplink with configuration if I'm doing maybe video uplink from cameras down on the street, or I can favor the downlink if I'm doing more of a typical residential play or business play where typically you'll get a lot more traffic in the downlink direction, demand for traffic in the downlink direction, than you would in the uplink direction. So it can support any symmetrical or asymmetrical speed as it's noted here. Software-defined radio allows for rapid expansion of frequencies. You'll see that as we go through the various different variations that are available with this product in the upcoming slides. GPS sync capability. So as I mentioned, that being able to scale and be very efficient with the spectrum that the solution uses is probably one of our key claim to fames with the type of quality and the type of solution that we provide. And it's not just GPS sync, although GPS sync is very key, very important, but there's many attributes that goes to bringing that efficiency up to market. Things like front to back ratio, things like automatic power control. There's like several different things that you need to be able to make sure that your products are capable of utilizing and working with in order to get that scalability attribute to really kind of work. All right, next slide if you would. So what does this show? This is basically a very simplified, high-level system diagram type of overview to kind of give you a little bit more of a visual of what we're talking about with the PMP 450 solution. So what you see on your left is a tower or a mounting asset. Might be on top of a building, might be an actual large tower somewhere out in your area. And you would mount your base stations to that, one or more. And they would be talking, in this particular scenario, they would be talking to a subscriber module that is mounted on either a residence or on a building for an enterprise or a business, hospital, campus, providing wireless broadband services inside that facility. In this particular scenario, we're showing a connection to what we call a CM Pilot R200, an indoor residential Wi-Fi unit that's also providing VoIP services, data services, and wireless, both wired and wireless inside that residence, inside that building, inside that enterprise. Back at the tower again, the base station, so as it's mentioned, you can have a cluster of these access points, up to 12, all connected down to a little box that's called a CMM, a cluster management module, and that's basically a box that's being able to provide a synchronized GPS pulse to all the devices to allow them to be locked into that synchronization mode, thereby able to reuse frequencies without self-interfering with each other on the same tower. Not only in this single cluster scenario, but in any type of larger multi-tower federation type of solution as well. All right, next slide if you would. excuse me. Let's talk a little bit about some of the 450 platform specifications. So you can see a lot of different pictures on here of the various different solutions that are out today. Again, and most of the differences that you see between these devices is really related to what frequency or what IP rating that they're dealing with here. So first off, as we mentioned earlier, although I'm not sure I got into the specifics, but the frequency bands that the 450 is available in is 900 megahertz. We just launched the new 450 900 megahertz solution within the last several months, and wow, that product has really taken off as far as some of the performance that it's seen with doing some existing 900 megahertz replacements or even new 900 megahertz deployments. And you can see the 900 megahertz access point on the right-hand side here with the radio attached to the back of the 900 megahertz antenna. Maximum throughput in a 30 megahertz channel, which is now available. You'll see on our roadmap slides, we've just recently added 30 megahertz channel is upwards of 200 megabits capability from a single base station, a single access point. The maximum SMs per sector, 238, as I mentioned before. 2x2 MIMO, you can see the various different modulation speeds listed here. MIMO A, MIMO B supported. Latency is very low, very consistent in the 3 to 5 millisecond round trip numbers. Well, I won't go through all the other attributes other than speaking of perhaps the environmentals with the IP67, IP66 rating. On some of the devices, as you'll see, like the connectorized 450 at the top, or the 900 megahertz solution as well, or the 450i SM solution as well. All right, so we can go to the next slide. Again, just to kind of give you a frame of reference of the size of some of these solutions here, we'll kind of put them next to something that's more perhaps very quickly recognizable, either soccer ball or basketball. You can see the 450 access point, roughly for the 5 gigahertz solution, roughly about 22.2 inches tall, and the subscriber module, all about 11 inches, 12 inches tall. So roughly, you know, the size of a shoe, average shoe for the subscriber module. Next slide, if you would. Giving you a view of some of the different options with the actual subscriber module and the antenna options that are available with it. So the standard integrated antenna, the PMP 450 at the top left-hand side of the picture, you can see mounted to a pipe that's coming off the awning of a house, is our integrated antenna. It's 9 dBi patch antenna built into the unit. Then they're working my way to the right. There's the clip for 5 gigahertz that adds an additional, I think it's about an additional 7 or 8 dB gain to the solution. Also the reflector dish gets it up to around 25 dBi. And then there's a connectorized variant at the far right that allows you to add your own external antenna if you need to have some kind of a specialized antenna solution for the particular deployment you're planning. Then down below, the PMP 450D is a new solution for our 3 gig offering. The 450i connectorized, and then the 450i integrated high gain antenna is shown there as well. And I believe that's well, we have a slide that speaks to exactly what the gain is on that solution, as well as the 450D in the next coming slide. Right. Some of the advantages, more in a tabular or matrix form. Again, I'm not necessarily going to read. I think we've touched on a lot of these things a little bit already. But scheduled time division duplex frame, so very deterministic regardless of load. Latency and QoS capabilities is available with the product, so basically allowing you to provide, prioritize what's more important on your network, whether that's VoIP type traffic or whether that's mission critical video surveillance type of solutions, and then act accordingly on your wireless medium with those type of definitions or characteristics. GPS synchronization, again, we talked about the importance with this for being able to provide that efficiency channel reuse in a multi-site, multi-sector type of solution or deployment where you're wanting to reuse frequency that potentially can be very congested, and so it's very important to you to be able to efficiently use the spectrum that's available to you. And then overall system capacity, so bits per second, per hertz per square kilometer. Being able to have a very competitive system with more IP towers to be added to meet demands. But when you do this with a competitive solution, you can get a lot of self-interference when you're expanding out your system, and being able to do this very reliably, very resiliency with that synchronization, frequency reuse. That's really the key. All right, next slide, if you would. Continual performance evolution. So this basically is showing you some of the things that have been added to the product solution over the last few releases. More frequency bands, again, adding that 900 megahertz very recently. Adding a wideband solution with the 450i, where now a single radio is able to support all the way from 4.9 through 5.9 gigahertz with simply a configuration change. And adding 256 QAM, getting us up to that 125 megabits worth of throughput today, although you'll see in a few upcoming slides that is nowhere near where we're planning to stop with this product solution as far as capacity goes. Higher PPS with the 450i, so higher capacity environment links, higher capacity for VoIP intensive applications where you have a lot of small packet solutions. We now have the 450i that can deal with higher PPS implementations where required. Being able to support 1700 byte MTU sizes, so it's MPLS tag friendly. So the mini jumbo frame type of support. The solution is able to do that already. And not only is it able to support the transparent passing of the MPLS tags if you are going to use PMP 450 as maybe an edge, wireless edge solution for an MPLS network, but it's also able to respect the MPLS traffic class QoS definitions as well, or honor them, I guess I should say, as well. Feature-rich QoS, so strict priority, supports flexible QoS methods and bandwidth management. I think we've talked about that a little bit already. All right. So the next couple of slides drill into a couple of subscriber module specifications. We'll talk about that here. So as I mentioned, the 450D integrated dish, as you can see here, it has a 25 dBi integrated dish solution compatible with our C3 VoIP. Works with existing power supplies. So when it says compatible with C3 VoIP, that means so our C3 VoIP, or what we call our R200 or R201 now, indoor Wi-Fi home business solution, has a option to provide power out of its WAN port. So therefore, you could eliminate the actual dedicated power injector for this subscriber module by simply plugging it into the indoor Wi-Fi router, the R201P or R200P. and thereby eliminate additional need for AC power and cables and things, making your installation much easier and cleaner. Reduce total cost of ownership. So single supplier speed of installation improves first install rates. An available solution now that shows. PMP 450i and PTP 450i. So again, this is our ultra wideband radio supporting 4.9 to 5.9 megahertz. It was launched a couple of months ago. So it opens up a new frequency band of 4.9, 5.1, and 5.2, which we didn't have available on the prior or the legacy 450 subscriber solutions. New FPGA, system on a chip architecture. So basically, this is expected, or it is, significantly increasing the processing power of the radio with greater than 75K packet per second support. Allows for wider channel support, leading to a more throughput. So where we're talking about 30 megahertz channel support and soon to be 40 megahertz channel support, as you'll see in our roadmaps, this solution will provide not only the capability to support those channel sizes, but the significantly increased throughput that goes along with it. It's a ruggedized solution, IP66, IP67, very similar for those of you who are familiar with our PTP 650 radio solution and the ruggedness of that solution. This leverages that same type of casing, metal construction to provide the ruggedization that is needed in certain areas, in certain implementations, or demanded of in certain areas and certain implementations. We're going to have an optional ATEX HAZLOC certified model available within this product for those who deal a lot with petrochem gas type of industries or verticals, where sometimes you find these type of certifications required for any type of radio or electronics implementation. 802.E, a new power scheme. So finally, 802.3 AT PoE compatible. So this can be powered from a standard type of power injection solution. Also very, very handy is that it provides a auxiliary port with a PoE output. So utilizing this point-to-multipoint radio solution to co-locate either with a camera or perhaps an outdoor Wi-Fi solution connected to the aux port, and not only being able to simply connect to the aux port for bringing the data back, but connect to the aux port to actually power up that external device. Again, making your installation quicker, easy, and less expensive. Any questions at all as we go along? Self-explanatory. Everything's very self-explanatory. All right, great. So let's see here. Differentiators. Excuse me. For the 450 versus the 450i. So certainly we have some transmit power, increased transmit power capabilities with the 450i versus the 450, up to 27 dBm. Slightly better sensitivity in the solution as well, 1 to 2 dB. So giving you some increased range. We talked about the increased processing power, gives you some higher PPS solution where you have PPS intensive implementations, whether that's VoIP or some other type of small packet type application. This thing called dynamic interference filter. So this is actually a very important, very strong differentiator. And what we're actually implementing on all our products going forward is this dynamic interference filter. So basically, increased interference mitigation, so much, much better performance in noisy environments. It's basically locking your front-end filter to not just the whole band like it is in our prior solution with the 450, but the 450i and products going forward now is able to provide a software-defined filter on top of the actual channel that you select, therefore very much narrowing in and eliminating these outer band interference noises that you may have had to deal with earlier on. Ruggedized industrialized mechanics. We've talked about this with the IP67 form factor. Wideband supports. Again, having one radio, one product, one box that's able now to support all the way from 4.9 gigahertz to 5.9 gigahertz with simply just a configuration change on the radio. Certainly makes things a lot easier as far as what you need to stock for certain implementations or what you need to spare for your network as well. So that's a big step in the right direction. Having now a auxiliary port available on the radio solution, which again we've talked about being able to provide connectivity and or power to co-located devices such as cameras or Wi-Fi access points helps a lot with this solution as far as its flexibility. And that standard PoE input capability, so I can connect directly to a PoE equipped switch if I have that in my backhaul or in my switching closet available to me. Certainly makes things a little bit easier in certain situations. All right, next. So, high gain directional subscriber module in the 3 gigahertz bands. We provide, as we just kind of said here, a high gain alternative form factor 3 gigahertz. That integrated flat panel antenna that you see on the right hand side of the picture is a 9 dBi gain 12 by 12 panel, 11 degree azimuth and elevation, so very narrow beam. Again, also helping you to get more power, more gain, but also give you a lot of additional interference isolation by having such a narrow beam. Compact design, easy alignment and installation. And you can see here model numbers and suggested MSRP pricing for that solution at the bottom of the page.
We did have a question that came in here. Will the SMs we already have work on 5.1 and 5.2, or will system or software upgrade get to this?
So SMs, if you're talking about legacy 450 SMs, my understanding is you would need the 450i subscriber modules to work in the band. But let me double check on that. We'll take a note. I will post any follow-up questions on our forum, which we'll talk here in probably toward the end of the presentation. All right. All right. So 450 900 megahertz overview. Again, we recently launched this just a few months ago, and it's really been a bit of a. It's actually kind of a revamp, uprev of our existing FSK PMP 100 900 megahertz solution that's been around for 12, 14 years or so. That original solution maxed out at around 6 to 8 megabits per subscriber module. And it was FSK, so required line of sight for the most part, although there's some propagation attributes with 900 megahertz that allow it to do a little bit of a non-line of sight, but not too much, and that's predominantly through trees and such. Anyway, so with the 900 megahertz 450i solution, operates in the same bands. However, we've added some additional channel support, so 20 megahertz channel, still supporting the 5, the 7, the 10, but now supports 20 megahertz channel support. 2x2 MIMO design. You can see some of the specs on the power defined here as well. Utilizes the PMP 450i architecture, so you get that large processing power capabilities that we talked about with the 450i. Again, it also utilizes the same GPS timing capabilities, so you can do co-location and not have to deal with self-interference. And really what the design goal with the 450i was and is to be able to operate under similar RF conditions as our original PMP 100 900 megahertz solution, similar channel size, but to give 3 to 4 times the capacity as what a PMP 100 solution did. And I think from all the feedback we've heard with customer implementations, both during beta times, deployment trials, as well as with real-world trials now that we're actually in production deployment of this solution, is that we've way exceeded that goal. It's just been phenomenal performance with the PMP 450i 900 megahertz solution, not only with its capacity, but its near non-line of sight performance as well.
So we did have a question that came in. When will we be able to support the IPv6?
IPv6, so we can support IPv6 today with pass-through, if we're talking about being able to support actually transparently passing through IPv6 packet solutions. If we're talking about network management of the of the radio product with IPv6, that is slated for later this year. I'm not sure if it's called out on the roadmap. It should be. So let's see when we get to the roadmap section if Matt has it actually called out. But from my understanding, I know that there's been some correspondence going on with some customer requests of that specifically over the last couple of weeks. My understanding is that we should have that in the radio this year, potentially in Q3. But let's see what exactly the roadmap slides speak to that.
Then Dave, and also a question came in about 450i availability in the 365 band.
That we'll touch on here.
Sounds good.
Roadmap slide. That is coming. So let me just preface it with that. That is coming. It's planned, and we'll speak to it in the roadmap slides. Talked all about this, and there's nothing here I necessarily need to go over. So we'll go one more slide and start on the initial roadmap slides. And a lot of this is more a little bit about where we've been and kind of where we're at now. So basically, latter part of last year, introduced a lot of features that are pretty value add with being able to support radius implementations, added better frame utilization statistics for the access points, so now you can see congestion or the lead-ups to congestion. If you're getting a particular access point that's getting congested for certain times of the day, you can see with these statistics better information to help you better plan your network. Adding zero-touch configuration, so this concept of being able to take a radio out of a box, point it to an access point, and have that radio basically connect to the network, pull down a configuration file that was intended to it, load that information based on the service plan for the particular subscriber or the particular residence or business that you're implementing it, and then reboot and now come up with that service plan implemented and ready to go without any type of user intervention or user action or user touch, installation crew touch, other than the aiming part. Has been brought to market now with a zero-touch implementation. So that's a pretty powerful implementation that was brought to the market here latter part of last year. 450D, 450i, we've talked about that earlier in the slide. That was all brought to market around in August. 14.1, we made sure that PMP 450i is now interoperable with 450, so if you have a 450i access point, 450 subscriber modules, be able to talk to that device. So that certainly helps with your existing legacy implementations of 450, being able to reap the benefits of the higher processing power of the 450i access point than a traditional 450. And not having to touch any of your already deployed 450 subscriber modules by simply swapping out. You can see some of the additional band support that was added in 14.1 during the last part of 2015. And then moving to 14.1.1, We talked about the launch of the 900 megahertz 450i. Again, that was kind of a smashing hit and continues to be quite a hit as far as what that product bears to offer. And it's predominantly because it has fantastic propagation attributes with the 900 megahertz. And now, to marry up with that, it's got some really good capacity numbers in comparison to what its legacy solution had with the PMP 100. High gain integrated SM in the 3 gigahertz. We talked about on just a little bit of an earlier slide. So 14.1.2, which is to be released this month. I think it's already out in beta in some degrees. We now support 5.2 and 5.4 for FCC, simply with the software upgrade. No need to change anything within the actual product. Some updates on the aiming page, a number of different bug fixes, as you can kind of see listed here. And I think there's even a crazy small print detail on the next slide that tries to speak to all the bug fixes that were dealt with this particular release. And then 14.2, which we will be releasing here in the next few weeks, is where we introduce additional channel sizes, that being 30 megahertz. I believe 14.2 is already on our beta page for those of you who are avid beta users and like getting some of the solutions a little bit earlier to kind of test out on a protected sector or so in your network and get experience with it. It's showing some extremely good results with capacity increases, and we'll speak to that here in a little bit. Lastly, and most importantly, is that second Ethernet port, that aux port enablement on the 450i with 14.2. All right, I'll let you read this. No, obviously I'm just kidding, but with 14.1.2 stability that you need, there were a lot of different little nagging issues addressed with 14.1.2. As you can see here, Matt's noted it will be the most stable, defect-free release yet for the 450 platform of products. It's due out by the end of this week, actually, and that's this week, 6/3. So stay tuned for that. This is a nice slide with 14.2, the release of 14.2 coming up. You can see, and what it really tries to show is with the added feature of 30 megahertz channel bandwidth on today's existing access points. As we've mentioned in prior slides, max capacity was 125 megabits roughly, plus or minus. And you can see here that over 170 megabits of real-world throughput using 450. If you throw 14.2 onto a 450i, you can certainly see it further increases the testing that we're getting back right now. The max capacity increases all the way up to 200 megabits on that single 20 megahertz channel. So the product is continuing to evolve as these capacities show from its current capacity numbers of 125-ish to now up to 170, and then if you're 450i over 200, and we're not even close to stopping there, as we'll talk about here in the next couple of slides as well. One more thing about 14.2, as we mentioned on that roadmap slide, the aux port on the 450i with PoE is now enabled via software configuration. So you can leverage that for what we show here. Actually, we have it in our office. Actually, it's about 10, maybe 15, 20 feet away from me at the moment. Is our little entry aquarium where we have a video surveillance camera, submersible video surveillance camera. It's kind of circled in red on this picture for those of you that can see it. That is an underwater camera connected to the aux port of this 450i, which is completely submersed in the aquarium. And it's been running that way for, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months or so. If you ask on the forum, we can probably even give you the IP address and you can access it at your leisure to check out our in-office camera going over our wireless 450i link underwater. All right, so now on to that strategic roadmap area where we're talking about what's coming this year and next year. And this is a lot of really where some of the excitement as if it wasn't exciting enough with some of the things that we've been doing over the last several months, now what we're doing over the next upcoming months is even more exciting for the advancements that are coming with the product. So with 14.3 that is coming out in June, we talked about the 30 megahertz channel support on some of the earlier slides, and I talked about some of those numbers that we're seeing from customers and testing of the 30 megahertz channel. I think there was like 170 to 200 megabits with the 450i. With 40 megahertz channels that will be coming here with 14.3, that increases yet again upwards of 250 megabits plus for 40 megahertz channel support. Something called intelligent multicasting. So now adding IGMP snooping and making multicast over a wireless network, which for those of you who are familiar with multicast can be very, very challenging and taxing in the capacity aspect. We're now adding some intelligence to how multicast is distributed over the wireless network, make it more reliable, and to make it much, much friendlier from a capacity taxing attribute as well. And there'll be details of that released as we get further into the 14.3 program. Carrier Ethernet 2.0 testing is part of the 14.3 release. That ATEX HASLOC certification, where I mentioned that the 450i will be an ATEX HASLOC version, will be available in here as well. And then we're adding the CN Maestro agent. So way, if you remember the very first slide that we talked about, where we have one network management solution over top of all of our products, CN Maestro is going to be supported within the PMP 450 product solution here in the 14.3 release, which will be out next month, or this month. And then after that, release 15 in Q3 of this month is something called CN Medusa. And if you've been tracking or watching our forum in any way, shape, or form, you've had to have heard that what we're going to be releasing here very soon is a next-gen 450 product that we're calling CN Medusa, and supports massive MIMO. It's a massive MIMO access point with multiple RF chains, beam steering. You can see in the intended supported frequencies in the initial release of the product listed here. And again, the beauty of it, as we've done with all of our next iterations of 450, is that we allow our customers to reuse the 450 subscriber modules and still reap the benefits of what massive MIMO or multi-user MIMO type of solution is going to be able to provide to you. So that's coming later this year. We have a couple more slides that speak a little bit more detail of that, but I won't get into too much depth of that because we have some big announcements, public announcements coming on that. Just giving you a little bit of a feel. The release 15.1 in October. So this is where our 450i will support 3 gigahertz, and we released that along with the CBRS support of that. So that's I guess some 3 gigahertz specific requirements from the FCC that have just recently been implemented. We will support that. And then a SM installation app. I believe this is something related to Android or Apple iOS app that will be helping with installers to be able to support remotely working the GUIs from an Android or an Apple type device, when if you so choose. With 15.2 in December, a feature called Adaptive CAR. So this basically is something that helps with ensuring air fairness a little bit more when you have a congested when you have a congested access point that needs to be able to provide CAR, committed information rate definitions to certain critical subscriber modules. This feature will help ensure that subscribers that have a CAR that are suffering from a poor RF interference won't take down the access point dramatically. It'll kind of gear shift from a capacity perspective. it'll kind of shift in a more of an air fairness perspective or a time fairness versus right now could potentially have a heavier impact on a access point right now. So what else will we be adding in 15.2? So additional queues, 4-level queues. For those of you who are familiar with the quality of service on 450 right now, we have 2 queues, a high priority and a low priority. The intent with 15.2 is to add 2 more queues, so a total of 4-level quality of service, more traditional with what you see in wireless networks today, allowing you to have more granular choices with how you provide services to your customers as far as quality of service goes. And then 15.3, you can see some of the things that are listed out here, and this is out into next year, so the times may vary as you get a little bit further out there. But the intent is to be able to provide a wideband subscriber module and 5 gig, synchronization via 1588 v2 versus just via CMM. And then 256-bit AES is also something planned or targeted for that release. So needless to say, there's a lot of stuff coming here in the next, 10, 12 months. Actually, there's a lot of stuff coming just in the next 4 to 5 months, let alone the 10 to 12 months. That is, once again, leveraging the investment that you've made and we've made in the 450 product line and continuing it forward. Okay. So moving on to the next slide. This speaks more toward what we're doing when we talked about that massive MIMO implementation that's coming in release 15, I think it was. Basically, what you see here from 2015, we added 256 QAM, 20 megahertz channel sizes, being able to support today's 125 megabits worth of capacity for a single access point. Stepping forward into the next releases that we're coming up with here, where we support 40 megahertz channel bandwidth and a dual core ARM processor with a 450i, moving that up into the 250 megabit capacity range. Next step, launching massive multi-user MIMO architecture with beamforming and multiple RF chains in the next couple months. We will be then looking at capacities over 500 megabits achievable. We have that happening in field trials today. And we don't just stop there. And this is, again, we're talking about a single access point with 450 subscriber modules. Moving again further down the line in 2016, we'll be launching a second generation multi-user MIMO antenna technology improvements, adding additional frequency band support, getting us over 750 megabits in a single access point type of solution. And then expected in the 2017 timeframe, additional improvements with the MAC and PHY layers, self-interference reduction, higher order modulations, getting us over a gigabit worth of capacity in a single base station access point. This is where we're going with our technology. This is what we're looking to do to continue for the 450 type of support for customer implementations today and for tomorrow as well. Excuse me. All right. So go massive. You can go to this URL if you want to. There's a few things that are still posted out on our community forum today. They're out on our website that will give you a little bit of a better understanding of some of the basics of what's intended to be in our massive or CN Meister or CN Medusa solution that we're going to be launching here within the next couple of months. So if you want to go to this URL and read up on some of those things, maybe post some questions and see what Matt, our product manager, is willing to reveal before the public marketing. You can go to this site and then learn up. You can go one more slide if you like. See some of our early marketing material for the CN Medusa solution. Excuse me. So I believe this is the last slide. We can sum up what's been said here so far. So the Cambium 450 platform, industry-leading point-to-multipoint solution for critical networks with proven reliability. 40 years calculated mean time between failures. So a very, very rugged, very, very mature solution. Been in the field for over 10 years. High quality type of solution. Extremely scalable. So you can have, as we mentioned here, up to 238 subscribers on the device, and there's actually expectations that we might be able to go a little higher than that with some of the new product solutions that or the enhancements that we're talking about here in the next several months. Many access points can be deployed at each site for maximal throughput without self-interfering with each other, leveraging that GPS synchronization, leveraging all the specifications of the antennas and subscriber modules with power reduction and things like that to make the solution as a whole work. OFDM MIMO to now something even more evolutionary with multi-user MIMO support that we hinted on here in the last couple of slides that'll be coming to market. So 2x2 MIMO provides high bandwidth for line-of-sight access and a path to multi-user MIMO. Future-proof your platform investment utilizing 450 subscriber modules in the multi-user MIMO system. I can't emphasize that enough, and that's something that we've looked at not just for this upcoming next iteration of of PMP 450 access points, but something that we've always continued as trying not to strand what has already been deployed in our implementations of from 400 to 430 to 450 to 450i, and now with seeing Medusa coming with the multi-user MIMO, same thing, being able to leverage those already deployed 450 or 400, 450, 430 subscriber modules. GPS synchronization, I think we've talked about quite a bit now in the last several slides. So a robust roadmap for the future, hopefully from what you've seen in the roadmaps slides, that's sunk in and really sinks in with you, and serving customers for today and for years to come. So that's basically it.
That's basically it. Dave, thank you so much. We've been going through questions that have been coming in. So I want to recommend everyone suggest to go onto our forums, post on our Facebook page, social media from Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. Share your stories. Tell us what you like. Even have conversations with us on our forum pages. You will constantly hear from Dave and even Matt Mangriotis and other engineers that we have on our team as we're constantly on the platform. So without further ado, I want to thank Dave and thank everyone for joining, and we'll see you guys soon.
Great, thank you.